All right, we are back from our mini break, and we're going to tackle this last question, which is, can a politician even get elected if they're in favor of a safe supply program? And it was further it was asked, do enough people understand the problem for a politician to get elected? In other words, is the public knowledgeable enough about what safe supply is, how it factors in? I would say no. Right off the bat, I would say most people don't have a clue what safe supply is. And if they heard about it, they would probably reject it as a kind of a default response, not because they're, not because they're bad people, but because they just, it sounds weird and it's contrary to what we've grown up with. So what do we know about, what are the chances if we've got a real, say a real politician is on the ballot and they're running one of the things they're promising is that they're going to tackle this problem for real. They're going to scrap this safer supply nonsense, and they're going to go at this with the full authority of emergency measures. Can they win an election? And is it possible as far as the current laws are in Canada? What do you think, Corey? Could somebody get elected with that kind of a progressive campaign promise?
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so. Unfortunately, I really wish that they could, but we have to consider sort of the majority and the kind of the base. I don't think so. Both federally within Canada and provincially in our province, I don't think it would fly. Mm-hmm. I think there would have to be like a tailor-made, more centrist version of that. And I think kind of the safer supply, as you put it earlier, that they've added an R onto safe supply.
I didn't put it.
no, but they've added an R. Yeah. And I think that is meant to like soften the language up and say, well, we're not in any way condoning this, and we still don't approve, and it's still wrong, but we're going to make it a little bit safer because we can't ignore the fact that so many people in our province are dying.
Yeah. Just that the addition of that little R there alone tells you how difficult this is politically. I don't know how such a thing could be tackled properly. You're right. We would probably need, it can't be you can't run a whole campaign, even in BC and win just on safe supply. It would have to be something that lines up with the majority of the people's political values who currently support it. And that what you're looking at there, I believe, from what I'm seeing, is definitely something that's more on the left side of things. So you could knock the Conservative Party right out of there. There's no chance they're ever going to go for something like this. I don't see it happening with them, maybe ever, and certainly not in the next 10 years. The Liberals, you can see what they're doing right now federally. They're paying lip service to it. They're allowing BC to proceed with the pretend program, which is, I'm impressed that's even, I'm impressed that BC has even taken the initiative to try to get something like that moving forward. But man, the pace and the lack of access. We're going to discuss this, I think, a little more in our next episode. We're going to possibly go over the policy as it was put out in 2021, and then we'll move forward and kind of look at where it is now. But yeah, I don't know, and honestly, I don't know what rules would have to be changed unless I know that because technically we've been in an emergency since whatever it is, April of 2016. That's when back then it was the opioid crisis, and now it's They've got that. They're. I'll give them one thing. They've really cleaned up their language. Like if you look at this report, this policy projection from last year, they are saying all the right things. Almost. They got a couple things they're still stuck on, like that R, but it's a big improvement. But it's still just filled with, kind of contradictions and paradoxes, and the way they've got the healthcare system involved, at least the way they want to get the healthcare system involved, basically makes it impossible to proceed. So maybe if they changed those policies and gave kind of emergency powers to, I don't know why they're burdening physicians with this on top of everything else that they have to deal with. But I don't know what else the only other option is to try to push it through as something like cannabis, what we did with cannabis. And my God, did they screw that one up. So, yes, cannabis is legal. It's available sort of right now. There's problems with supply due to the strike and with the, what is it? The something, and I forget what it's called, general employees strike.
Mm-hmm.
But that's nothing to do with, well, regardless, it's available and it is legal, but I don't know what it would look like legally or logistically to attempt to roll out a program that basically legalized everything on a commercial scale. Like that would be, I think it would be insane to attempt that right out the gates. They're wise to, I hate to say that the decriminalization thing is necessary, but again, it's still, that won't be in place until the beginning of next year. And why? If this is an emergency and has been an emergency since 2016, why has it taken so long to get even decrim it? That should have been move one. Try to take that away. Like the police don't need to be bothered with the guy who's sitting there with a personal amount of whatever they're using. It's dangerous for the police. It's just a source of friction. It's bad news all around. It doesn't make any sense. So that's good, but decrim is not going to solve the problem. So yeah, how is this implemented? Is it possible to get it implemented? Or is this going to be a thing where it's just going to have to be like how they eventually forced cannabis into legalization, where it was compassion clubs and enough people kind of coming around to the fact that this is silly, that it's illegal. And man, we're quite a ways from that.
And I have to get a bit doom and gloom here for a second, because I think I'm afraid that we're even farther away at what's coming. So in our province, we don't have a conservative party. We don't have a party titled the Conservative Party. Right. There are parties that have a conservative approach to politics and to social issues, but we don't have a big C titled Conservative Party. Mm-hmm. Our Liberal Party is probably closer to the center, and it, in some policies, can be quite conservative, though they're not sort of self-proclaimed to be. But federally, across our country, there is a conservative wave happening. There's a new conservative leader who's a populist leader, who is garnering a ton of support. Mm-hmm. When I look at the provinces in our country that already have had conservative parties in place, like Ontario, like Alberta, what has happened to healthcare in general, just general healthcare, is that they've been cut left and right, and social programs have been slashed and burned. Mm-hmm. What I look at on a province like Ontario at their drug policy versus a province like British Columbia, Ontario has been way further behind. So, and although in British Columbia we have the New Democratic Party, which we've said is sort of a left-leaning, quote unquote, socialist party, if you will, though they're not sort of radical in any sense of the word, I wouldn't say. But the majority of the voters in British Columbia are more conservative. And if you look at a map of the province, federally, the Conservative Party in a federal election, the Conservative Party wins in a vast swath of our province. The more sort of liberal NDP votes happen in smaller in cities within our province, like Vancouver, Victoria, and all along the coast.
Yeah.
So with this sort of political change that's happening in our country right now, it makes me afraid that our provincial government will have to cater to the federal government in order to keep a working relationship there. Will we see some of these policies that are just sort of crawling forward? Will we see them stop? Will we see a lack of support from the federal government? Probably, if that government changes. So my fear in the next year is that things will really derail in some of these in progress in some of these areas. That's my doom and gloom.
Well, yeah. You know what? I didn't even consider the fact that that politically it seems to be always a pendulum swing, right? And I am I'm afraid to see what this next pendulum swing looks like, because it went so haywire to the left, and now I'm worried that we are going to be, I don't even know what's going to happen, and this is in Canada, let alone the States.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very big possibility that we get many more blue seats, blue cities and in provinces, and I don't think, judging by what I saw the last time the Conservatives were in power, I mean, my God, they slashed everything. Like you couldn't do science in Canada.
Well, those guys. Exactly. And we know that there's that conservatism, at least in this day and age, across North America, is tightly linked with morality and religion. And we know that healthcare gets cut anyway because we got to save money because we don't want taxes, so they say.
Yep.
Then add this addition of the moral religious discussion, and a safe supply doesn't have a hope in hell.
Yeah, you make a pretty big point there, and then maybe this is because I think I'm struggling to remember how this all played out with cannabis, but I think even during the times when we had a conservative federal government, BC was still a contingent, kind of an underground contingent who was fighting away.
Oh yes.
And they got the toehold in with medical, and then they kind of climbed through, squeezed through there, and then they got things happening where all of a sudden there was kind of a gray market set up, and it sort of forced its way in, right? And that was regardless of what the political climate was, there was enough. But this is, in comparison to cannabis, this is a tough sell, because most people don't care, unless they've been directly affected. You have to spend a little bit of time to even understand what this concept means. And then you have to spend probably some more time to learn how it would work to not only save lives, but money. And I mean, it's just, once you understand how it would work, it's kind of a no-brainer, but it takes time and effort to get there. And I don't know how much time and attention span people are willing to give, and yeah, I mean, even less if we do tend towards a more of a right-wing conservative government. So yeah, who knows? Might have to just go Heisenberg style,
that will happen.
I think it will. Yeah.
It will. I just, one last disheartening anecdote was that I had reason to watch a live stream of a council meeting in my community, and one of the they got talking about.
Were you mandated?
I was not. I was watching by choice, and they were talking about toxic drugs and overdose deaths. And one of the city councilors in my community got up and said, we need to go back to teaching our children to just say no.
Oh my God.
And,
really?
And I thought, like,
Drugs take away the dream from every child's heart and replace it with a nightmare. And it's time we in America stand up and replace those dreams. Each of us has to put our principles and consciences on the line, whether in social settings or in the workplace, to set forth solid standards and stick to them. There's no moral middle ground. Indifference is not an option. We want you to help us create an outspoken intolerance for drug use. For the sake of our children, I implore each of you to be unyielding and inflexible in your opposition to drugs. Our young people are helping us lead the way. Not long ago in Oakland, California, I was asked by a group of children what to do if they were offered drugs. And I answered, just say no.
What year did Nancy Reagan say that in?
I get angry just thinking about it makes me mad. Little kids doing drugs, it turns my stomach. That stuff hurts. It stops you from living up to your potential. It holds you back. It hurts the user. It hurts his family. And it hurts his friends. I just want to shake some sense into you kids that are using drugs and thinking about using. So remember, don't, or else. Okay?
We're going so far back. And I live in a community that is not necessarily a good representation of our province or our country, I don't think. But
it's kind of a mix, right? You're
is
sort of on the fringe. You're not in the city, but you're not. You're sort of rural, but not rural like Prince George, or you know what I mean, like not north. Like
it's after kids everywhere. It entices them, confuses them, and can even kill them. That's right. Illegal drugs are everywhere. Cocaine coaxes you in, and then when you least expect it, it grabs you. You're hooked, and it's hard to get away. And have you seen what marijuana does to some people? Oh yeah, you've seen them. Total burnouts. It slows you down. It softens your mind. And in my neighborhood, you need to move quickly and think fast. Drugs. It's a bloody shame.
The further north you go in BC, I mean, you get up to, I remember voting in Chetwynd, and that was pretty funny. It their final vote, I think, was 98% conservative or something. I must have been one of the only guys in town. I was just like, man, but you understand why. I mean, the way they get treated, the way the money gets doled out, of course you're going to be resentful towards everybody who's voting a certain way down in the lower mainland. And, it's there's a lot to it, but
yes. But that's it was like a little snapshot of what we're kind of up against. That we're up against a mentality that is clinging to the 1985 approach to just say no to drugs.
Did this really happen? You're not?
No, this really happened.
A guy got and said, we need to teach our kids to just say no.
Yeah.
What did the rest of the people there do?
Nothing.
That's why I would never, ever take illegal drugs. I've seen some people who smoke marijuana, and they seem to lose pride in their appearance. They lose their motivation to achieve. And let's face it, what goes in your body eventually shows up on the outside. The bottom line is stay away from drugs, but do it because you care about yourself.
Silence.
Silence, eh?
And this was said to a mother who had lost her son to fentanyl.
Oh my good God.
Yep. In 2022, ladies and gentlemen, we're still talking that way.
Imagine so not just ignorant, but confident, confident enough in that ignorance to get up there and tell a mother who just lost. That is something. Wow.
Yep. It's just alarming.
That is alarming. Yeah. Well, I guess there's always moving to another country, but I looked a little while ago. I was discussing this with there's a couple that they were in the pharmacy and they've had enough of Canada. They're from Hungary and they're like, this place is going to hell in a handbasket. They're going back home. They've literally, and not waiting or anything. They're going next month.
Wow.
Yeah, they sold everything. They're gone. So you guys are lost. You are heading for a bad place, and we're out of here. We're going back to stable territory. Yeah. So Yeah, and I looked. Spain is very progressive, but their economy's destroyed. You know, like there is some European countries that have progressive laws, but there's nowhere really on earth that's completely. I mean, I guess there's little pockets of lawlessness and stuff like that, but even Norway is not really. I mean, they were still too far behind on many issues. Where can we go?
Oh man. I don't think I have an answer to that question, but
No. Well, we'll see, I guess. We'll see how things go, and we'll hope for the best.
Yep.
And maybe we'll be surprised.
Yep.
Right? Because look at us. We're a couple guys who have problems seeing the good, seeing the good and seeing the light, right? We like to be, we tend to be more pessimistic. So hopefully we're wrong.
yeah.
Maybe things will be more progressive. And yeah, I think that's good for now. And when we come back again, like I said, we'll probably discuss where Safer Supply is, where it's going, and we've also got to get some. We've had a couple guests fall through and be elusive, so we've got to get another guest in. So if listeners are, if you know anybody who's interested in coming in and talking about any kind of addiction-related issue, we'd love to have them on. And other than that, yeah, emails, comments, we want to hear from you. Let us know.